Google, basically since its birth, has been the king of searching the internet. Bing has tried to top it, Yahoo's tried to top it, there was that DuckDuckGo search engine for a while. Can really anyone beat them? Perhaps the most valuable brand in the world could beat them. This is a very bizarre idea. I haven't read up on this, on if it's happening or if Apple's interested. Literally, this is a concept idea. It's not a concept phone, but this is something I think I can elaborate on, and I wish more people could actually start considering it. This idea that Apple could develop their own search engine to be default within their own apps. This, of course, would be built into Safari, but also built into Siri. A lot of complaints people have with Siri, I think, could very easily be fixed if Apple were to develop their own search engine for looking around the internet. There's a couple of reasons I think they should do this. For one of Apple's main rivalries is Google. They own the Android community. They brought up Chrome OS, which is heavily affecting MacBook sales, and now they're introducing the Pixel line, which isn't really affecting iPhone sales, but they own the platform, which is the main competitor of Apple. A great thing to do if you're competing with another company is start providing similar services that do the same thing better or faster or cheaper, or just basically go to war with them. You know, Google didn't have to make the Pixel phone. There are plenty of other Android phones out there, but they insist. Well, what if Apple insisted on making their own search engine separate from Google? For one, this could mean less people overall are using Google search. If you didn't know this, Google actually pays Apple $3 billion a year to ensure that Google stays the default search engine on all iOS and macOS running apps. When you buy an iPhone and you open Safari, you type something into the top, it uses Google. You can change any of these, of course. You can change it to Bing or Yahoo, but actually a couple years ago, Apple was going to change it, and Google said, no, don't change it. We need that search. The more searches we get, the more valuable our ad revenue is. Therefore, they pay them $3 billion a year, so they think it's worth it. But if Apple were to start doing it, for one, Apple could have a new source of revenue. I've been talking a lot on this channel about Apple Music and the HomePod and how all companies are going to have to reorganize themselves as a services company, as hardware is going to get more and more similar as the century progresses. This means that ad revenue might be a big reason other companies might be getting into it. Now, I'm not talking about the big banner ads you see on Facebook or old crappy websites or Rotten Tomatoes. I'm just talking about companies pay Google to be first listed when certain things are Google searched. You see the little ad icon under certain links when you Google search something. That is made because certain companies are paying for their results to be listed first, since Google is the most popular way to access the internet. This is how Apple could make this an income stream as well, to be a reliable one. Just like iCloud storage, Apple Music, services. That's how big companies are gonna stay alive in the 21st century. So for one, from a financial point of view, this has long-term benefits. Of course, if Apple first introduced it, it would not ignite and replace a bunch of Google searches that quickly, but if they persisted in it, maybe if they tried to make their search results cheaper than Google's, maybe more businesses will switch to that, especially if Apple makes it default within Safari. For one, I think that's one company that might actually be able to stop Google at being the king of searching the internet and assembling websites together. And for two, I also think that Apple could probably make a more interesting way to do it. Google search results really haven't changed in the past 10 years. It's still just blue links with some gray text underneath it and maybe some green text. Nothing's really been adapted there, and Apple always has such a unique and intuitive approach when it comes to designing layouts and operating systems. Maybe they could make it more fluid. Maybe they can make it more efficient and have things maybe go in a row instead of just bam, 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 wall of text. Maybe providing little thumbnails or sneak peeks, or doing what Google does and have built-in answers for whenever you Google an interesting question. This is when Siri would come into play. A lot of the time, people blame Siri for not being too knowledgeable on a lot of subjects, for being stupid. If Siri had her own way to access all of the internet and assemble all of the best results she could find and put them into an answer, just like Google does with the Google Assistant, then Siri on all of our devices could be way, way, way smarter. We could actually get some Google Assistant and Siri competition, making them more even. Now, I know a lot of people out there, when they first get their iPhone, when they first get their iPad, if the Google search engine was replaced with something else, maybe Siri search or Apple search, or I don't really know what they're gonna call it. I don't really brainstorm that part of the concept, but I don't think they should prohibit you from Googling things. things, that would be pretty controversial. But being able to build that search results and build that answer building into your conversations with Siri, whether they be on iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, HomePod, anything, Apple could definitely have a leg up on Google, and Google would have the right to be scared. As we see with their $3 billion offering to Apple every year, they would be quite scared if Apple even just changed the default search engine. Again, not removing them entirely, but what if people who just open Safari and start typing something, if that uses Bing instead of Google, Google's kind of scared because Apple is basically the most popular brand in the world. A ton of people are using iPhones, iPads, over 1 billion active iOS devices. That means you change all of those to some other search engine, it might put a massive dent in Google's search library. I'd be very curious to see if Apple could pull that off. Do I think they will? Not really. There's no evidence to support that, and I can't deny the fact that having a company like Google pay you $3 billion a year to do nothing. Google literally said, here, take this money and don't change anything. My proposal would involve having to hire a lot more people to invest in machine learning and new layouts for search results and all that kind of stuff Google's already spending their money on because they basically have an unlimited income. This would mean Apple losing a lot more money before actually gaining money, and it's not for sure going to work because anytime a search engine competes with Google, it always flops. So most likely it's not going to happen. I'm aware of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it though in the comments below. Tell me why this wouldn't work or why this can't happen. But even though this most likely would not work, I'd still like to see Apple try, and if Apple fails at doing it, then we'll know, okay, no one can really touch on this. Google has a monopoly on search results. But anyway, that's some of my interesting ideas on what I think Apple could do in the future, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, so let me know. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.